Brand nerds, brand nerds. You know what it is. Back at you. Brands, Beats, and Bytes podcast. LT, I'm going to start this show off in a way that I've never done before.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. Uh-oh is right. Uh-oh is right. And it's in honor of our next guest. And I'm going to start it with a quote. I don't think I've ever started one of our podcasts with a quote, Larry, but I'm going to start this one with the quote.
Make it happen.
All right. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan, not the goal. Run that down one more time. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan, not the goal. The author is unknown. Otherwise, I would attribute it to an author. I love that quote. Brand nerds, the reason why I love that quote is because at the root of that quote is the reason why I found myself at the Coca-Cola company. That might come up a little later. Being at the Coca-Cola company is one of the most precious moments of my entire life, not of my career, of my entire life. It wasn't because the Coca-Cola company had the most valuable brand in the world at that time and had been in that place for many years. It wasn't because of that, although that's a good reason to come to the Coca-Cola company. It wasn't because there were some of the smartest business people and marketing folks in the world who were matriculating through those halls. And there were some of the smartest business people and marketing people in the world matriculating through those halls rather. It was because brand nerds of the quality of the human beings in that building. Really, really good people, good folks that if you wanted to have a godparent, that you would say, I want my daughter to have this person as a godfather or godmother. These are the qualities, level of quality of the human being at the Coca-Cola company. And this next dude we're going to have sits right at the top of that list. Not just smart, not just a supreme marketer. You're going to hear that, brand nerds, but also an equally supreme human being. What I remember about him, brand nerds and Larry, and I'll close this out so we can get to the real introduction in a minute here. You notice themes about people when you meet them, wherever you meet them. If you pay attention, brand nerds, just watch people and they will be like a book where they are turning metaphorical pages, telling you by their actions who they are. And themes will pop out. And I am going to close with another quote that I think describes this person, and it has to do with luck. And the quote that no doubt you all have heard is, "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity." Now that's by Roman philosopher Seneca. This dude might have been the most prepared person that I saw matriculating through those halls at the Coca-Cola company. And Larry, you don't, I don't know if you know this. Actually, I think I forwarded you the email. So, brand nerds, before our podcast, now we've done 200 of these now, 200. Stuck, well, I'm not giving his name. Our next guest sends me an email going over, okay, this is, DC, this is kind of what I want to hit. Uh, Give me your thoughts. This sound like this on point or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, hell, I don't know. No one has ever sent us an email like this. I don't know. I do not know. And this speaks to his preparation. Brand nerds, if you want to learn from a high level business person, a supreme marketing who's a good person and is willing to go through many different doors and windows to reach his goals, this is the show for you. Larry, let the peoples know who we have in the building today.
Great setup, DC. We have Scott Stuckmann in the house today. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, guys. It's really an honor to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. So, okay, brand nerds, there are many of us who really have the brand marketing itch, and many of us go to great lengths in manifesting this marketing career path. I was actually one of those people. Brand nerds, I've talked about, my MBA from University of North Carolina, which I'm very proud of, and I also have an undergrad degree in accounting from George Washington University, which I'm also very proud of. But even after earning that MBA in marketing from UNC Chapel Hill, it took a whole lot of convincing those in marketing hiring positions that I would actually be able to do this. Scott's journey is much different than me, a kid from the Bronx, but the challenges are eerily similar. Only dragging myself into it since we at Brands, Beats, and Bytes want to show you up and coming brand nerds who may have started out in another career and want in on marketing, and you are trying to figure out, man, what's the way in? It is great to know others have traveled and are traveling a similar path. So let's get to Scott. Scott grew up in Wisconsin, the son of a dad who was a farmer and a community banker, and a mom who volunteered at a public television station. Not exactly the typical launch pad for an uber successful global brand marketer. For college, Scott attends the University of Wisconsin-Madison, earning a degree in engineering, and joins Westinghouse Electric in a rotational training program, working on everything from 50-cent electrical boxes in Tennessee to the AWACS radar systems at a defense plant in Maryland. While engineering is technical and grounded in logic, the experience sparks something bigger for Scott, a curiosity about how products actually win in the market, how solving a marketing problem is so much more complex than just engineering a product, which of course is not easy. With a brand marketing career change in mind, Scott goes back to school at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. Certainly makes sense and obvious to Scott, but wasn't obvious to many in the marketing game. Scott has to convince more than a few recruiters an engineer can actually think creatively. Eventually, he does this and lands his first marketing role at Kraft General Foods on the Oscar Mayer business as the assistant brand manager for hot dogs. This is a great first place to learn. At the time, Kraft and Oscar Mayer were fast-paced and innovative. Think Lunchables, led by our very own Jeff Shirley, completely reinventing the mature category of processed meats. In this environment, Scott launches the first fat-free hot dog, and while it may sound crazy, it becomes a surprise commercial success. Brand nerds, here's our tech part. While there, he leans into this new thing called the World Wide Web, creating one of the first CPG websites and building the first online Super Bowl halftime experience, catching the attention of many, including the Wall Street Journal. He then joins the Coca-Cola Company, where his brand career quickly expands. He starts on Powerade, and brand nerds, for the few of you with scorecards, he is there a few years after me, and he helps propel, I'm going to call it our brand, Scott, to several years of 40% growth. From there, he moves across brands like Fruitopia and Coca-Cola Classic, while also leading major sports marketing efforts across properties such as NASCAR, the NHL, and the Olympic Games. While at Coca-Cola, Scott then takes a road less traveled, joining the Fountain Group, which is the food service and hospitality side of the company. Internally, it is less visible than the well-known brand management side of what is called the bottle can division, which is the epicenter of brand management. At the same time, Fountain is a major profit center for the company and holds a huge share advantage versus the competition. It also provides an opportunity for connection with consumers across many channels and occasions. At Fountain, Scott leads customer marketing for brands like Arby's, Checkers, Rally's, Olive Garden, and Chick-fil-A, building a deep appreciation for those that build relationships with customers and learning about mutual value creation between organizations. After more than a decade at Coca-Cola, Scott joins global CPG power Nestle, initially leading the away-from-home beverage business in the U.S., including brands like Coffee Mate and Nescafe. In this role, Scott successfully turns the business around and leads the acquisition of a major ready-to-mix player leading Scott into a more global orientation. He then moves to Singapore, becoming the head of beverages for Nestle Asia Oceania Africa division, shaping strategy across more than 80 countries spanning Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Oceania. He has plenty of great stories to share about how cultural impacts the way brands connect with consumers and customers in different countries. After 3 consecutive years of more than 10% growth, Scott is promoted to become the GM of Nestle Professional for Australia and New Zealand, living in Sydney, building a team of leaders, transforming the business into the company's top performing B2B market globally on a per capita basis, consecutive years of growth, and navigating the very challenging effects that COVID has in the region. After a very successful corporate year and 15 years abroad, Scott decides to shift gears into entrepreneurship, serving as CEO of a startup in the yachting industry, taking it to revenue, and then building an advisory portfolio focused on helping CPG brands grow. In 2024, he goes back to corporate and back to where he started, joining Kraft Heinz to lead away from home capabilities and global customer relationships based in Amsterdam. He leads a global team rebuilding strategic partnerships with Sodexo, McDonald's, and Burger King, as well as growing the community of away from home marketers in countries across the globe. At the beginning of this year, 2026, Scott comes back to the States and back to the entrepreneurial world, advising founders and mentoring small companies through a group called SKU. It's an incubator with experienced operators helping founders launch, accelerate, and scale innovative CPG brands, taking on 8 new brands every spring and fall. Previous SKU brands include Siete Foods and Dude Wipes. Scott absolutely loves this. Welcome to Brands, Beats, and Bytes, Scott Stuckmann.
Wow. Quite an intro. Geez, very humbling. And it makes it sound like glamorous. I guess all careers make sense in retrospect,
Yeah.
despite the twists and turns that they take along the way. But I can assure you there's also been quite a few times that, yeah, you do some unsexy roles and things like that.
Mhm.
But anyhow, we thank you so much for that intro, Larry. Woof.
Well, DC, I want to say this.
Mhm.
Um, Usually, I take people's information and cultivate it. As you were talking about Scott's planning, he sent me just an incredible write-up where he basically really helped me formulate it in a way that was really easy. So there's Scott's planning and prep coming into play again, which was really
I'm,
great. Thank you.
I'm shocked, Larry. Let me just tell you, I'm gobsmacked. Okay, gobsmacked. That's my boy. Uh, Brand nerds, you know that over the course of the years of listening to our podcast, that I have this propensity to just refer to folks with names and nicknames and things like that. So at times you will hear me refer to Scott as Stuck because his last name, his surname is Stuckman. So I would say Stuck. It doesn't mean, brand nerds, that we are stuck or that he is stuck. It just means I'm just referring to my boy is stuck. All right, now that I got that off the table, brand nerds. Uh, so Stuck, we're gonna go now to get comfy section. This
Sure.
is something we start off before we get into the meat of the podcast. You know that marketing is a combination of art and science. The best marketers understand both left brain, right brain marketing. Any marketer that leans too far in one side, one hemisphere of the brain, they will be good, but they won't be what Larry and I call a balanced marketer. Here you are, brother, as an engineer. You're engineer in undergrad, and you want to get into marketing. There are brand nerds out here stuck who are in accounting, like Larry was undergrad, or any number of things that don't necessarily point towards marketing as a destination. Can you help them understand what you did and what you were thinking to make your path towards marketing from AWACS? Okay. Help the brand nerds understand this.
Yeah, so think about an AWACS radar. It's, that big defense plane with that dish spinning around the top. And my job was to document processes and things like that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's solving problems, and you're solving in engineering, you solve a problem in a box, but like marketing, wow. Think about the degrees of freedom. You're dealing with people's emotions and their connections and the not only the intrinsics of the product, but also, the brand, the emotional aspect. And so that was like, it was very intriguing to me to
Mhm.
make that path actually reality was like a whole different story. I mean, I knew I had to go back, get an MBA, really change the game to a certain extent. But even then, Larry, you probably know recruiters, hey, look, they want to see a demonstrated path, that maybe you've done sales or maybe you've done some sort of creative roles in the past or internships and those things. And I really didn't have that. So, I mean, it's the oldest story in the book where you just have to hustle. You have to put your head down.
Yep.
And I mean, just to get that first job at Kraft General Foods, I remember stalking recruiters. Yeah, MBA, like, hey, look, I know you got to take a break. You drink coffee. Do you like it black or with cream? I'll bring it. Just give me 10 minutes and just to
Mhm.
get that chance to get your foot in the door. I would write up and create marketing campaigns. And, this is before you had
Wow.
PowerPoint and all these other types of things and like
Yeah.
be able to present it if I would get the interview or whatever the case may be. And so it really ended up making a difference. And whether you finish second or last doesn't matter in an interview, right? So if
Right.
you make a fool out of yourself and the recruiter moves on, well, okay. But I would say that really opened the door and I'd say kind of proved the point. So don't go halfway
Hmm.
in your early stage of your career. Just give it a go. And I felt like once I set my mind to it, I could do it. And it actually played out. So it's been an absolute wonderful experience for me. Brand marketing, it is an art built on science.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so I had the science part. The art part is still oftentimes a real tough one for me because that's not naturally innate. But yeah, I just really enjoyed the whole field. Zero regrets. Few people, including people close to me, are like, why do that? You have a good career. But if that's your passion, you got to follow it and just go for it.
I
Yeah,
like that.
DC.
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, yeah, I want to hop in here because again, Scott and I have similar paths. Scott, one of the things that I remember doing the same thing, stalking recruiters, and at UNC Chapel Hill, we had a previous guest, Bernard Bell, who was a fellow UNC alum, MBA alum with me, and we talked about going to the Carolina Inn and getting there early when companies would come visit. And Frito-Lay, as an example, had a lot of Carolina alums there, so they recruited us pretty heavily, and so I remember getting there early and staying late and doing all there was to do. And at the time, brand nerds, I took it personally that, hey, man, the first thing that people ask me is, well, you were an accounting undergrad. Why the hell should we? And I'm obviously being hyperbolic here, but why should we hire you when we have all these folks who, like Scott said, they might have been at P&G in sales, right? Or
Yeah.
they may have done worked at ad agencies. I had friends who worked at ad agencies. It's an easy then stepping stone to this career. And so, A, don't take it personally. That's the first thing that you need to do. And then B, figure out, okay, what are the weaknesses or the challenges that I might have and how can I fill them in? So a couple of things that what Scott did was great. I'm going to throw another thing that I did. I did a class project about Nike at the time.
Mm.
And it was one of these things that was really well received by my professor. And one of the things that Nike at the time, this is again, I'm dating myself in the 80s, Reebok was killing them. Reebok was really killing Nike. This is in the late 80s. And Nike was at a very crucial point in time. There's even after Michael Jordan, they were struggling. And so one of the things that I came up with what they should do, and one of the things I said, Bo Jackson had just started playing two sports, and that they should sign Bo and really utilize him in a way that really leveraged his multi-sport capacity.
Hmm.
Well, I wrote that paper like 3 months later. That's exactly what they did.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I had the date and everything in the paper. So I would literally bring that paper with me
Mhm.
to interviews to say, hey, if you don't think I'm creative, by the way, here's what I came up with. And I think
Uh-huh.
that went a long way. And I'm only bringing up that story is that when you're in the situation Scott and I have, you got to use everything you can and everything at your ability to convey to people what they perceive as what your maybe your weakness. And then I would say, and oh, by the way, I also know when you're an assistant brand manager that that person's in charge of the budgets and everything there is financial, and I could do that in my sleep.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a good one. I mean, LT, I'll give you, and I'm going to name drop. I hope the guy doesn't mind, but Rohan Oza,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Done pretty well in marketing. So I was on the recruiting team and I go to this presentation to give the presentation, or at least assist with it, University of Michigan.
Mhm.
And there's like a kind of a round table type thing. You table up, a bunch companies are there. And I'm like setting up, and there's this dude, Rohan. It's like, hey, can I help you? Can I help you set up anything or do anything for you? It's like, no, I'm good. And the same dude shows up afterwards.
Mm.
This thing is over. The presentation's over. Everyone's taking their stuff down. He's like, hey, can I help you carry that out to your car? Can I help you with any? Really put forth the amazing effort, right? Do you think that not lands in a recruiter's minds?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Brand nerds, Google Rohan if Oza if you want to know who that is. If you don't know the name.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Rohan. I call him Ro Beast. Um, I spent time shoulder to shoulder with him. I like to think he in some ways learned some things from me. I learned some things from him. Um, he he might be one of the top 10 marketing people to have ever lived in modern times. That's Rohan Oza. And the point that you, by the way, Robies, love you, brother. Uh, the point that you're making about Rohan, your point about your Bo Jackson idea for Nike before Nike did it and stuck, uh, you talking about your hustle and creating campaigns and get inviting folks out to coffee. How do you like it? I like it black or with cream. So, in other words, not do you want to do coffee? Which one of these two do you want to do with
Right.
me? You mentioned the word hustle. I have another H word that I think describes all three of you in those stories. You Stuck, you Larry, and then Robeast, and that's hunger.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, brand nerds, those of you who are in school, either undergrad or grad, a recruiter can feel hunger.
Hmm.
Scott felt Rohan's hunger. Scott was not asking himself when Robeast came up to him before the presentation at B school or after, I wonder what's his GPA. That's not what Scott was thinking. Scott was not thinking, oh, I bet he has one hell of a marketing portfolio. That's not what Scott was thinking. What Scott was thinking was, who is this dude that would be here before anyone else and asking me to help set up and then come afterwards and do the same thing? Brand nerds, that is hunger. That's hunger. Recruiters can feel it, which leads me actually to a secondary question. Brand nerds, of course, we all now live in a global um, economy. We know that. But back in the day, there were discrete areas of marketing where around the world, if you grew up in Asia, you largely stayed in Asia to do your marketing. If you grew up in the US, you largely stayed US. If you grew up in Europe, you largely stayed in Europe. And certainly if you grew up in Australia or New Zealand, you stayed in Australia and New Zealand to do your marketing stuff. More likely, those outside of the U.S. were likely to travel to other places around the world. Less so U.S. executives. Scott, you've moved around a hell of a lot. And oftentimes careers get compromised by not being open to moving.
Mm.
What made you decide, and quite frankly, your family decide you were going to be taking up the stakes and putting them down in other places throughout your career?
Yeah, so wow, I love that question. And it is from an early lesson that I've learned about saying no, and not being open and curious, even if it could be scary to a certain disruptive. I think the international moves
Mm-hmm.
that I've taken have been the single best career decisions I've made in my life. But it's
Mm-hmm.
daunting, right?
Yeah.
Singapore, Asia, we got two small kids, my wife Julie. By the way, it was not my decision. Anyone ever considering an international move that has a wife or a family, it's not your decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's the spouse's and it's the
Yeah.
kid's decision.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if you make it yours and something doesn't work out and things are tough and they are tough the first year, it will be coming back to you.
Oh, yeah.
So it was not my decision. It
Mm-hmm.
was Julie's decision. Is
Mm-hmm.
this what's right for us?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, I had that curiosity. I had the attitude of I'm not going to say no to an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
but I did dispassionately remove myself from that and say, this is what I think we should do,
Mm-hmm.
but it is your decision. And
Mm-hmm.
it ended up being absolutely, as I said, fantastic. It changes, I would say, your understanding of marketing. Most of us and listeners will probably be US based marketers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's amazing US marketers, but it just brings a huge amount of depth in
Mm-hmm.
understanding how culture really influences decisions in dramatically different ways in different countries and different cultures. It's just absolutely a mind-opening experience. And you look at things differently from a different perspective. And I do think that that helps you holistically. So maybe if I just put a little bow on it, if you're
Mm-hmm.
given that opportunity to go, to experience it, it will be one of the best decisions you can make. Even though it seems very scary and you're making compromises,
Mm-hmm.
the benefits far outweigh it.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Larry, any follow-ups before we hit the next section?
Other than just a quick comment, I love it, Scott, and I think you laid it out really well because it's one of those things that there's risk reward, and you gotta think in those in that way, but the reward can be huge.
Mm,
Yep. I, I
absolutely.
I really love this quote about the depth and understanding how culture influences decisions.
Mm.
That's deep. Yeah, that's deep. Okay, we're going to the next section. It's called
Yep.
Five Questions Stuck. Larry and I go back and forth, each of us asking you a few questions until we get to five. I get to begin.
Okay.
Take yourself back. Time machine. Go to the time machine here and return to a moment in your life where you were really into a brand and or a brand experience stuff. You were just enraptured with this thing. You couldn't get enough time with it. You couldn't stop thinking about it. You just really wanted to be around it, almost like a first love. What was this first brand and or brand experience for you?
So you said a moment? How
And,
about a lifetime? I'm
okay,
still in love with this.
okay,
So
well
it's like
let's hear it.
That's
it's
awesome.
all right. Corvette. I
Ah,
Corvette.
absolutely
Ooh,
love old
mm,
Corvettes. And
Corvette.
my dad was
fiberglass and all.
fiberglass and all. My dad was a car guy. He loved muscle cars and stuff like that. So he's always tinkering with these things. Um, So therefore, like I would subscribe to Corvette magazine. I would read
Mhm.
all about them. I'd go to the local car shows. I couldn't even drive. I just love these things. And so I go to college and I had this really successful DJ business, right? I started doing DJing and things. I did
Wow.
parties and made a pretty good amount of money. I sold the business. And the first car I buy is a 1967 Corvette. I
Wow.
wanted that car so bad, and it's like, so I get this Corvette. It looks great, but it has problems, and I love fixing things. So I'm fooling around fixing these things, and I have friends that, end up getting in the hobby. I meet a bunch of friends through the hobby. So I'm 23 years old, going to these car shows. Usually guys are older, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera, but it just end up having a ton of fun. And you go to these big road rallies or you go to national events and things, and you got your best friend sitting in the seat next to you for 12 hours. That's not so bad.
Mhm.
My dad's into it. His dad, others' dads are into it. So then the dads get together, and you got a bunch of guys talking around, sitting around talking smart about Corvettes and sharing some good times and things like that. So man, it's amazing. And I mean, if you get to the brand aspect of it, well, it's the pinnacle of engineering. It's part of Americana. It's Route 66. It's got intrinsics, extrinsics. It's got all those good things that you love about a brand, and it's still relevant today. It's still relevant to me today. I still have a Corvette
I was going to ask
parked
you.
in a garage, gathering way too much dust with this international career, but yeah, it still gets my heart pounding. So when you say a moment, DC, no, it's more like a lifetime. Still love that.
Oh, just so good. Larry,
You go.
um, Scott, I grew up in Detroit. Those of us who grew up in Detroit, of almost any era, but particularly during the time where I grew up, you were not escaping a love for cars. Could not escape. I used to have a collection of two magazines, and I every single month went cover to cover in both. And then I added a third. Hot Rod was one. Another one was Car and Driver, and the third was Motor Trend. And I used to have these magazines, and then later I added Road and Track. So I would go through these four magazines every single month. As you mentioned, it's not just a moment. You're right. This is a bug that will be with you the rest of your life if you're into it. For example, this weekend I attended the inaugural Atlanta Motoring and Concourse
Hmm.
at Lake Lanier Islands. It's called Lanier Islands here in Atlanta. And what was happening there, Stuck? Exactly what you said. A bunch of folks who love cars sitting around talking about their passion for their particular car. And there were vets there. I so relate to your story. And then I want to give some definition here because some of our brand nerds listening, Scott, they haven't gone to B school, at least graduate. They're undergrad. Some of our brand nerds, they really want to get into marketing as you did, but they have a circuitous path that they want that they're going to take. Can you take a moment to explain when you say intrinsic and extrinsic? You described that here about the vet, and you used those words earlier. Tell the brand nerds what that means so they know what you mean when you say about a brand intrinsics and extrinsics.
Hmm. Yeah. So the intrinsic, the I would say the vehicle itself, the product itself,
Mm-hmm.
so Corvettes, pinnacle of engineering, usually pretty muscular engines and things, sports car.
Mm-hmm.
And so the performance aspect, pretty dang amazing, right? And then there's the extrinsic. They are beautiful cars
Mm-hmm.
and they probably evoke emotion. I still get, the hairs stand up a little bit and the goosebumps when I see a beautiful Corvette go by, or I talk to one of the owners. I think they're just amazing. So it elicits this emotion for me. That's the extrinsic. And there's also all those adjacent emotions. I
Yeah.
see one of those cars, or if I ride in my car, I think of my dad, I think of some of my friends, makes me want to pick up the phone, give them a call, see what's
Yeah.
going on, those things. So that's hopefully that answers your question there, DC.
It
You
does.
could probably answer it better than I can.
No, no, that does us stuck. Thank you. All right, LT, what you got, brother?
Yeah, before we head to the next question, I love this because this is the emotional connection that
Yeah.
Scott has had for his whole life, brand
Yeah.
nerds. And that's why DC asked him, there's internal and external, but really it's the full scope of all that goes into the emotional connection. And dare I say, the more the external, the extrinsics are what's really connected Scott rather than, what kind of engine it has. And then I'm also struck with in 2026, Chevrolet is we talked about this a lot, is the big brand, the mother brand, and Corvette is the sub brand. And I've always been struck with that relationship because that's something that's also sometimes it feels connected, sometimes feels disconnected. But most people say they're Corvette people. They're not Chevrolet Corvette people. So,
Mm,
that's how big that sub brand is, right?
good point. Good
All right.
point. All
All
right,
right.
ready for
Next
the next
question.
question? Yep, go ahead.
Next question. DC, do you have anything to add before we go to the next
I do
question?
not. It's you, brother.
Okay. Who has had or is having the most influence on your career, Scott?
Most influence on my career. Boy, I could give you a laundry list of people that have had influence on the career, and some of these names you know, and I have to just give a quick shout out. And then I'm
Please
going to answer
do.
the question, because those early years at the Coca-Cola company, such amazing talent,
Mm,
Yep.
and a couple of them are on the podcast here, DC, the most incredible brand positioning ever in the history of brand. That's
Agreed.
you. Incredible.
thank you.
I just
Thank you, brother.
still am
Thank you, brother.
so amazed by what you've done and just the intuition to do it. Fantastic, my friend.
Thank you.
But there was some real talent walking around those halls, and I hope that I gleaned a little bit from so many of them. Like John Conrad was just
Oh
about
yes.
personal accountability and make things happen, do what you say. And I remember
Yes.
that. Chris Lowe, for when you make a great decision, what could be the unintended consequences
Yes.
that
DC's talked about that a lot, and
Yes.
that's a huge Chris Lowism that's really
That
important for
is.
people to hear.
I won't forget it ever. Frank Bifoco.
Yes.
I'm an associate brand manager, and he walks in, and he's a senior executive, walks into my office on a Friday afternoon, and how's it going? What you up to? How you feeling? Just management by walking around,
Hmm.
Yeah.
being with the people. So if you are a shepherd, smell like the sheep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that guy was absolutely incredible. Um, there's a long list, right? We could go through, but you asked the question, who has had the most uh, greatest effect on my career? I
Mm.
can answer that two ways. I can answer it totally professionally, or I could answer it very personally. I'll let you guys choose between those two.
It's up to you, which is more important for you.
All right, well, then I got to give props to my dad, right? My
Mhm.
dad, a farmer who becomes a community banker. He gives out farm loans to, uh, farmers in the community. And I'd go into work with him when I was a kid. I'd go into work with him and just hang out a little bit on a Saturday or something. And, he'd do his business and stuff like that. And we'd be driving home. I'd say, Dad, you got the easiest job in the world. You just talk to people. That's it. And he's like, whoa,
Mhm.
whoa, whoa. Let me stop you there, son. I mean, those people that I'm talking to are, farmers that, they make all their deposits with the bank. They, take out loans for silos and tractors and things. There's a big part of the business. And he's like, it's not just the financial aspect, it's the relationship. And I would say they're equally important because the
Mm.
relationship is an asset of the bank too. And I'd be like,
Mm,
whoa. So,
mm,
you know, he always had this really incredible way of connecting those that were local in the community. You know, he was a farmer, so he could do it so easily. And that just left such a massive impact on me and the power of
mhm,
relationships. And how even if you're doing business with a big customer, right? A global customer, multi-billions of dollars, having that relationship, you know, whether it's in between or the top to top, is vitally important to making sure that you are both unlocking value in that
mhm,
relationship. And I've seen that over and over, and that's cemented in my brain, especially in like a food service, a B2B type thing. That customer relationship is so critical because that customer
mhm,
is the lens on how you reach your consumer. And
mhm.
it just imprinted upon me. And it's a life lesson I'll never forget.
Whew. Love that. Love that. That's great stuff. I have nothing to add to that, D.
I
You want
don't
to hit the
have
next question?
anything. I don't have anything to add either. I'm going to hit the next question right after this. But Stuck, you're dropping bars here. So,
Yes,
brand
you are.
nerds again here. In our world, in brand management and in business in general, you guys have heard B2B and B2C. But when you hear Stuck use the word customer and consumers, when he's using the customer word, he's talking largely what happens between businesses. When he
Hmm.
uses the consumer word, he's talking about those who are like us who buy things out in the public. Customer, more B2B, consumer, B2C. And his bar that he just dropped, Larry, brand nerds, we don't want this to get by you, is that the customer is the lens to the consumer. I've never heard it articulated that way. That is pristine.
Hmm.
That's exactly what the customer is. That's exactly what the customer is. Okay, I'll go to the next question. Stuck as eloquently as Larry was in your upfront introduction and all of the success that you've had and globe trotting. I might even call you like a Harlem globe trotter, gallivanting around the world,
Corporate
sprinkling,
gypsy.
yeah, sprinkling your business and brand acumen to grow a multiple, diverse set of businesses. Uh, you had many wins. This next question, I want you to delve into none of those.
Mm.
I want you on this question to give us rather, and the brand nerds, the biggest F up you've had in your pantheon of a career. The biggest F up. One that you this was on you, Stuck, and not on someone else, not, well, the economy changed. No, a decision, a choice you made, you messed up. Most importantly, what did you learn from said F up?
Right. Um, I'm just look, if you're not pushing, you haven't made mistakes. And I certainly have made, unfortunately, my fair share of them along the way, and some real ones that cost money, significant money, and some that were just cringy, and others that, man, I wish I could redo that. So we could
Mm-hmm.
go through that whole list.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you about a simple one early on that taught me a massive lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm at Kraft General Foods, first experience out of business school. And you get this project, there's a bit of a backwater project, make a fat-free hot dog, some technical stuff, work with those guys, see if it can happen. I mean, hats off to my boss for saying, take the chance on it, right? So we're able to actually make a fat-free hot dog. How you like, there's this technical process where you can get the fat out of meat and it's like a 40 calorie hot dog that tastes pretty good. Launch this thing. big successful launch. You do it at some fancy New York supper club and everything else, and the
Yeah.
press is there. What a fat-free hot dog! And this thing takes off. It's amazing. It's big. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. And they're like, well, Scott, that's fantastic. And, you got to share this success around Kraft General Foods, and it's an inspiration, and you can grow a mature category, blah, 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 blah. Great. So doing that, and what does every big CPG want to do, or big food company? Let's do some line extensions, right? And
Oh yeah.
Scott, you had so much success. You've done great doing that. Can you lead this big promotion called Talent Search? We think this could be really big, where kids can go to the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, sing the jingle. They can be on a TV commercial. Wow, that's great. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So 2 weeks in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working investment banker hours. This is crazy. I don't think I can do both. And I go to my boss and say, I don't think I can do this line extension and do this. Boss, really cool. Jim Lord, and he says, what would you like to do? And I said, I'm going to run it back. I'm going to get this line extension up and going.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, okay. And I let go of an opportunity. I said no. I didn't lean in to say I can take this on or make this successful. And boy,
Mm-hmm.
do I regret that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think clearly line extension just wasn't as big as you would have thought. And I felt like, in a way, I shut the door on what could have been an even bigger opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because it was the safe route, I still wonder. But from that moment on, I said, I'm not going to say no. And that
Mm-hmm.
influenced so many decisions going forward. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
leave Kraft General Foods, go to Coca-Cola. Fantastic. Get an opportunity to move to Singapore, move abroad, embrace it. There
Mm-hmm.
was projects along the way that some were real stinkers I could tell you about, and some were very speculative that I didn't think would have a big chance, but I gave it my all. And I think that has served me really well in the career. So I would just say to a lot of listeners, if you get the opportunities, if management presents you with something that they truly believe in, fully embrace it. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Deep stuff, D. Have anything to add to it?
I've got a question. Scott, you're a very insightful person. I believe this is a hallmark of a great marketer is being insightful, not just about what one sees externally, but what one sees about themselves. So you got this balance of things, the two things you're dealing with: line extension off of a successful um, fat-free hot dog, and then you've got this talent search thing. Before you made your personal decision as to what you would say to your boss when you would go to your boss, because that's a process of I need to talk to my boss to tell him I can't do both. And then after he asks you, okay, well, pick one, what was your criterion
Good question.
for the selection?
Mm, wow.
Take yourself back.
Yeah. You know what? I wonder if I was afraid.
Mm.
Mm.
Because the line extension was known. You were already doing that. That was really known. The talent search was completely different and unknown. So that's kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, got it.
You know. So, um, yeah, in life in general, and oftentimes with careers, you have to go for it. You just
Yeah.
have to go for it. You don't want to be unreasonable. You can't be unlogical,
Right.
of course,
Yeah.
but you just have to really embrace, be curious, and be okay with that ambiguity, right? And at that time, yeah, I wish I would have made a different decision.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Larry, before I ask you to follow up on this, Stuck, I want to share something with you. I don't know if you know this about me or not, but it's very similar to what you just described of two things and having to make a choice. You said some wonderful things about me and what I've been able to experience with the Sprite brand, and it was extraordinary. But before I became the senior brand manager of Sprite, I was offered a role to be the senior brand manager on a new brand. And it was a newly acquired brand in our company.
Hmm.
And the way it was positioned to me is like, we are acquiring this new brand. It is in a small but beloved category that we believe is sleepy and poised for growth. And we'd like you to consider doing it. And they offered me the role, also a senior brand manager role. So it's not a promotion, it was going to be same level. And they asked me to think about it. And the brand was Barks. Barks.
I knew you were going to say
Yep,
that.
yep, Barks root beer. And of course, now it seems silly to like. Of course, you pick Sprite. No, 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 no. This is different now. This is the Coca-Cola company acquiring another company and
Who didn't
saying
have a root beer, so
it,
they were that
it
was
did not have a root beer. Thank you for
not
that.
in the portfolio.
Not in the portfolio, and they're saying this is yours. If you want it, it's yours. I went home, stuck, and I labored over that decision. Labored over it. And here's where fear came in for me. I was like, okay, I've already sort of been doing the Sprite thing, the repositioning thing, and maybe this is a new adventure. I could diversify, that kind of thing. And then I decided, my former wife, her name's Valerie. She gets a lot of credit for this. She was like, "Baby, you've poured your heart and soul into this Sprite brand.
Mhm.
You can't leave now.
Yep.
You can't leave now." And I thought about it, and I said, "Yep, I cannot leave. I can't leave now." And so my criterion was what was speaking to my soul, not how much money, how much power, budget, people, none of that notoriety. Was what was speaking to my soul. And the Sprite brand spoke to my soul. And that's why I stayed. But these decisions, man, they're big. They're
Huge.
big. All right, Larry, go ahead. I don't think I've ever shared that story with you, Stuck.
No, that's
Mm.
amazing. I mean, again, because your legacy, it's still paying off for the Coca-Cola
That's
company
right.
big time.
Mm.
Thank goodness
Thank
you
you,
made the
Valerie.
decisions you did.
Yeah, thank you, Valerie, for helping you with that decision. D, I never knew that either. That's
Oh
really a
man,
great
I thought I
story.
shared it with you, Larry. Yep, not many people know that story. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. All right,
Welcome,
Stuck.
brother.
Question 4. Regarding technology and marketing, you have seen a whole lot. Can you tell us where you think marketers should lean in or best leverage tech, or you can go to areas that they should be leery or simply avoid?
Oh, wow. Lean in, yes. Look, I have quite a few thoughts about tech and everything else, but more specifically AI. And I don't know if it's going to be this big game changer for CPGs, right? And big brands, some big brands that aren't tech related. But where I do think it's going to make a big, big difference is this area of synthetic research. I, if you know your consumers and you know your customers extremely well, of course, that's one of the most important things you can do in brand management. And synthetic research now with AI tools where you can train these AI tools that you can get better value propositions, where you can speed up R&D cycles, where you can understand competitive analysis. I mean, I think the days of focus groups and things like that can go away. Yeah, they take a long time, et cetera, et cetera. So this area of
Mm.
synthetic research and using AI, I think could be
Oh yeah.
a really, really nice accelerator for CPGs.
Okay, so question for you. So just so we understand and we and
Mhm.
you brand nerds out there can understand this too. And I'm going to bring up something, going to give a shout out to our friends at Datanautics. Sanjay Patel in Orlando has had a closed AI research company for a long time. And Sanjay's and his team has just developed something, Scott, where we did this for the Globetrotters. That we put a QR code on the scoreboard. This is when we worked with the Globetrotters. And right there, people could then take the questionnaire. They ask very simple questions. What do you like? What don't you like? And by the end of the game, thousands of responses we were able to share with Globetrotters what was going on. What Sanjay has literally, Datanautics has just done, and I think this is where you are with synthetic research, but I want to make sure that we all understand this, is Sanjay at Datanautics, they can now do the research in the way we interact with AI. So if it was the Globetrotters game, they could ask, what did you like about the game? And then they would answer, and then they could say, oh, you like the trick shots? Tell me more about the trick shots. And
Mhm.
so they could literally do that. And I'm using the Globetrotters as an example. So have an AI kind of conversation for research, and then also, again, get the results immediately. Is that considered synthetic research?
Yeah, I think that could be definitely one angle on it, but it's also, uh, oftentimes you have to do bespoke research and things and go out and ask consumers. But what if you create, and you can, and there's agencies that do this, personas and groups of synthetic consumers? They're not real,
Right.
but they embody who those consumers are. And then you can
Mhm.
query with questions and other ways that you can actually get database decisions
Okay.
on
Mhm.
understanding your consumers. And
Got
I've seen this, in R&D be extremely successful and
it.
increase
Interesting.
cycle times for value propositions, making sure that you are connecting with your customers and your consumers in a really, really valuable way. What do they want to hear? Do they want to see trick shots and those things?
Mhm.
But you don't necessarily have to go through traditional steps to do that. You can use AI models. I think that could be, like I said, AI, it's going to benefit certain industries and be a game changer for certain industries. I don't think it's going
Hmm.
to be a game changer for CPGs,
Mhm.
but it can certainly help. It can be a tremendous tailwind.
Right. Cool
Mm,
stuff.
Yep.
D, you want to hit the next question?
I do. Stuck. What are
Mhm.
you most proud of?
Uh, Easiest question, my friend. Because, yeah, you could talk about professional accomplishments. Those are on paper. You could talk about the teams and people you meet. They're not on paper. But by
Mhm.
far, the thing that I'm most proud of is my family and my daughters. Super
Mhm.
simple. Um,
Your daughter's names are?
Sydney and Sophia. And if you th just to tell you a story, the question they hate the most is where are you from? Which how often do you get that question when you're
Right.
meeting somebody?
Yeah.
You always get that question. Where are you from?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? They will answer. Where was I born? Where did I spend my childhood? Where do my parents live? Where have I spent the most time? Where did I move
Mhm.
from? They can't
Mhm.
really answer this question because
Mhm.
they've moved and we've moved so often, different
Mhm.
countries, different states and things. Yes, for the career, but also the experience. But the beautiful thing about that is they are some of the most resilient, fearless,
Mhm.
amazing young ladies there are. They are not afraid of change. They absolutely embrace it. They're eager to explore. When they get the chance, now that they're entering the working world and things like that, they no problem going to Europe and traveling or doing whatever they want to do. They have friends sprinkled all over the world. But I think that gift of resilience and how they've
Mhm.
embraced it, it wasn't easy. And I could tell you stories about
Mhm.
challenges that they had, but they embraced it. And I'm so proud of them for doing what they did, being who they are, and now just going after what they want in such a fantastic way. So really proud of those two girls.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Do they speak different languages too, with you guys being all over?
Yeah, they're pretty good at Spanish, believe it or not, even
Oh,
though I've
wow.
never been based in a Spanish country. But my wife, Julie, obviously is fluent in Spanish. DC knows Julie. We met at the Coca-Cola company.
Right.
Um, they have spent some time in Spain and things specifically to learn Spanish. So yeah, they're
That's awesome.
quite good at that.
That's awesome. Thanks for
Yep.
sharing that, Scott. D,
Mhm.
anything to add?
I do. Um, I've not moved anywhere near the number of times or locales as you. Our family, they started in Atlanta, they went out to Southern California, and then back to Atlanta. I do, however, remember times when they were moving from one school to another, oftentimes mid semester.
Mm.
They would have to leave old friends and make new friends.
Yeah.
And as a parent, it was hard for me watching them do that, knowing it was at the behest of my career and the decision that my former wife and I made to move. You and Julie have moved many times across multiple countries. What was it like for you watching Sydney and Sophia?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, traverse that.
Um, when you're in it, it's an adventure, and it's kind of the way we're geared. And so it was
Clearly.
just an amazing experience. So you could say we're a little bit adrenaline junkies, seeing new places and being other places. And they've experienced that too. And I think they still have that. Now, I peel back that layer, and not to get to like a bad space, but yeah, there's some repercussions at times. You
Yeah,
mentioned moving mid-semester or moving during high school. That
yeah,
can be tough, right?
yeah.
And it can be I'd say a very delicate time that at the time we didn't realize some of the impacts that that could have.
Hmm.
And we were a very tight family, but even we didn't know some of the things that they were going through. And I think it reinforced that you don't know, and you have to always check in and just have that closeness with your family to navigate through those times. They say the three most stressful things in your life are the death of a loved one, divorce, and moving.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so moving, I think we've gotten through that, but you really got to stick to those that are close to you when you're moving. So I didn't totally answer your question, but DC, yeah, it's a big deal, especially in the delicate times as kids are growing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that. Larry, any follow up to that?
Nope.
All right, brother.
All right, Scott. We're
Yep.
getting down to the last segment here, man. This has been so much fun. These shows go so quickly for us when we have amazing guests like you. Okay, so DC, Scott, what's popping?
What's poppin'?
So, Scott, this is our chance to shout out, shout down, or simply air something happening in and around marketing today that we think is good fodder for discussion, and we think you have a good one for us.
Yeah. So, what's on the minds of every board and everything else right now? AI,
Yep.
right? So AI is mentioned more than growth in the quarterly reports. It is
Yeah.
just incredible. And everybody wants an AI strategy. And how does that affect brands? And how does it affect specifically, I would say, CPG brands? I don't think it's going to be a game changer because there's some that think that it's going to absolutely change every industry. I think it's changing tech, but I don't think it's going to change CPG in a massive way. It's going to help. It's certainly going to help. And the AI influence and the tech influence, I think, could be really, really big in some ways, negatively. Why? You got context for the top six dividend paying stocks are CPGs. They're paying dividends to prop up their stock price. Why? Because the tech
Yeah.
companies are going crazy, right?
Right.
And they're growing and a big multiples and everything else. And so low single digit growth, which is pretty good in a CPG in today's
Oh yeah.
environment,
Yeah.
seems pedestrian.
Yeah, it does.
So you
Yeah.
got that bad context there. Two, I mean, who do CPGs sell to? What's the number one retailer? Amazon, right? Walmart. I should say Walmart's number one. Amazon, huge. You got Costco. Everyone's so data driven, and they're
Mhm.
squeezing CPGs,
Yeah.
right? Big time. And then you got this thing, especially in the food and beverage industry, GLP-1s. One of the beautiful things about CPG companies was that everyone's got to eat and drink.
Yeah.
And now they're saying GLP-1s, which are becoming more and more prevalent,
That's Ozempic, by the way, brand
Ozempic,
nerds.
Wegovy,
Right.
these drugs.
Yeah.
Your food, beverage, and alcoholic beverage consumption is down 30%. So what if
Wow.
10% of the population is on that? So you got this massive confluence, not all technology, not all AI, but they're certainly influencing. That's providing a tough, tough context for CPGs. And the tailwinds from AI, maybe not strong enough to quite overcome that. So yeah, it's really been fascinating me. Where it goes, who knows?
Right.
But it's just been something that's really been interesting in our industry right now.
Glad you're bringing this up, and specifically for our industry. And I'll say our because DC and I start in CPG. You're always fancy yourself in the the grounding of that. Uh, I love this. As you're talking about this, DC and Scott, what's coming into my mind is that, and I'll preface it by saying, and Scott, you've listened to the podcast, and the brand nerds know that DC and I are unabashed, huge fans of AI. We use it every day. We lean
Yeah.
in. We're even cross-referencing and checking Claude to Chat to Gemini to others, right? And so we use it all the time. And if I was CEO of a CPG company for a day, I think you'd almost have to have somebody who his job is not just AI corporately, but to employ, if you're the brand management team, so the CMO has an AI person. How can we employ AI to emotionally connect with our brands better? And by the way, it can manifest
Mm.
itself from both creative. We've talked about that a lot, how there's a lot of AI creative, and we know our friends at Coke have been in the lead of that. But that's just a small facet to it. You mentioned synthetic research. What can we do in all areas of, again, brand nerds marketing is from the full funnel is from awareness to purchase. So sales is a huge part of that. There's a whole lot of steps in the full funnel from when the consumer's aware of a brand to them actually buying it and then repeat buying it, right? So what can we do AI on that realm? And then have somebody, the CFO needs an AI person, right? And I think all of those main functions need their own AI person. What I'm hoping doesn't happen is there's the corporate AI person. And by the way, whoever gets, if that person is a financial person or whatever, that's who's going to, you know, get the most bangs, shall we say. One of the things that I talk about a lot, Scott, is that many companies are either revenue sales focused, marketing focused, or cost focused. And I'm worried that, one of the things that people are scared about AI, it's going to replace people, it's going to replace a lot of things. I think there's ways to open up the aperture that can help the revenue and sales side. And I think we're very early in that. And I'm hopeful that the CPG folks can think about it from the revenue and sales side as well as the cost side, because the cost side becomes something that is the easy pickings that people will employ early. So I've said a lot, you guys, but that's what some of the things I'm thinking.
Yeah, a lot of
Hmm.
truth to that. And really good insight, Larry. I mean, I think it's seen a little bit too much right now as efficiency.
Right, right.
Yeah.
This is such a good topic
It
and it's
is.
inescapable. I doubt that there is a single company that goes a week without some substantive conversations about AI. And oddly, while I totally agree with you, Stuck, that AI is not going to change like like the entire landscape of CPGs. It's not technology different, but it's not going to change the landscape of CPGs. I do think, however, there's going to be more of a separation
Hmm.
in the level of marketer
Mhm.
because of AI. And I
Hmm.
want to I want to tell you why I think this stuff. I I had the wonderful opportunity to attend the Adobe Summit in Vegas a couple of
Hmm.
weeks ago, and it was all about AI. Among the speakers was Jensen Huang,
Wow.
who is the brand nerds. If you don't know, he's the eighth wealthiest person in the world. He's the CEO and founder of NVIDIA. They make chips. So he's talking from the stage, and he brings up the subject of task versus purpose.
Mm.
And he gives an example of radiology. And he said what people thought is that AI was going to replace doctors.
Hmm.
And what they have found is that's not the case.
Mhm.
It makes the good doctors or the great doctors even better. The
Yeah.
task that AI is now doing is reading the radiology charts. There's all the scans, all the data, they're reading all of that, and then they're feeding it to the doctor. The doctor, that's not his task anymore, is reading the charts. The doctor's purpose is to save lives and help people live longer, healthier lives. That's the purpose of the doctor's work.
Mm.
So the radiologist can now do that better,
Right.
serve their purpose better because AI, the machine, is doing the task
Right.
of analyzing the data, task versus purpose.
Hmm.
The same is true of marketers,
Yes.
particularly in CPG. The task may be synthetic focus groups. It may be brand nerds in marketing. You guys know this, but the vexing thing in research for many, many years when you start cutting the data is what's the sample size? What's the sample size?
Right.
Like, is that going to stand up? Is that efficacy? That's what we all want to know. Because once you start going, what's that by gender, by age? And then, oh no, you got 50 people now. Okay, I'm making this up. It's sample size. Synthetic focus groups now removes that because you can be at scale
Right.
quickly when you're doing synthetic focus groups. So it can almost be a bit like qualitative because that's what focus groups typically are, and quantitative. You can do both on the AI side, but that doesn't replace the purpose. The marketer saying, what's the purpose of this brand? And how do I take this data and make certain that I can do better at communicating and emotionally connecting, which Larry talks about all the time, you did here, to our customers and consumers. That's my first piece. The second one is this. One of the speakers, I can't remember the gentleman's name. I really want to make certain I find it. He was with Microsoft. And he talked about how in the world of AI, and a lot of it was agentic AI,
Hmm.
the two most important elements and attributes of a marketer are creative judgment and taste. Creative judgment and taste.
Huh?
And when you are at a CPG and you've got access to, or any marketing company that's not in tech, you could be doing cars, for example, and you are looking at data, you've got to make a creative judgment if you're given a choice between two or three options. AI can bring out the options. AI shouldn't be making the choice. It
Right.
is our creative judgment that guides us towards the choice. It is our taste that guides us towards the choice. When we were building the Sprite brand, for example, and we were really getting deep into what is the best expression of trust your instincts, what is the manifestation, the extrinsically out in the world what best represents trusting your instincts, which was then turned into consumer facing obey your thirst, which, as you've alluded, Scott, they've come back to. It was hip hop artists, producers, basketball players. They represented those at like the paragon, the penultimate of those who trusted their instincts. We had to choose between one artist and another. AI couldn't do that. That
Mhm.
required creative judgment, it required taste. So, of course, today one might look back and go, oh, I can see why Grand Poobah, Large Professor, A Tribe Called Quest, Nas, I can see how you all arrived at those artists and not MC Hammer. Love MC Hammer. Love MC Hammer. All right. It required creative judgment and taste to select those specific artists. So I believe this is where elite marketers are going to separate themselves based on their ability to employ creative judgment and taste.
Yeah. And even beyond that, DC, inspiration
Oh, yes.
and intuition,
Yes.
which again, both of you guys have in absolute huge amounts. I mean, that cannot be replicated. And I'm wow, you're speaking a lot of truth, at least I believe is true, and is going to I would say reinforce the fact that brand marketing is not going to be replaced by AI anytime
No,
soon. There's
no.
no way. It can help speed it
Yeah.
up. But the emotional
No.
connection that you're going to make to consumers, that can't be artificial.
People may try, but they're going to make a big mistake if they do it.
Oh,
We
yeah.
all agree wholeheartedly on that.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man, we're getting to the end. This is the end, D.
Yes.
Yeah, Scott, you've been absolutely fantastic.
Oh, I loved it.
We're gonna hit
Thanks,
you with
guys. It
some
really makes
quick
me think.
I'm gonna hit you with some quick learnings. DC's gonna do his thing, which is amazing, and then and hopefully we can squeeze in your final thoughts about the conversation. So I have 7 learnings. They're awesome. So I'm gonna hit them to you pretty quickly. Number 1, if you want this marketing career, brand nerds who are on the outside, set your mind to it and exhibit genuine hunger. That will manifest this career, this marketing career. And guess what? Scott and I are both testaments to that. Number 2, global career opportunities, as Scott has had, can be daunting, but also hugely rewarding. Number 3, those global career opportunities, it's not, unless you're single, if you're single, it's your decision. But if you're not single, it's just not your decision. It is a family decision. Huge on Scott's part. Number 4, like Scott learned from his dad, always, always, always have the power of your relationships as the lead for all you do. And if you have those relationships, as Scott says and does, see and use the customer as the lens to the consumer. DC repeated it before. We can't say it enough. Number 6, like Scott learned, and he says, go for it. That's a quote. When management presents something to you, think yes first, not no. Think yes first, not no. Number 7, in your brand and or marketing role, like DC's radiology doctor example, how can AI leverage analysis better, the task better? That's what DC was talking about, to then help you have the brain thought and the intuition and the resolve to ultimately strengthen the emotional connection between your brand and the consumer in B2C or customer in B2B. Those are my 7.
Wow.
All right.
Wow. That's impressive, Larry.
Scott did it.
Wow. It's humbling.
That's good, Larry. I'm going to steal some of those, I think. So, Scott, in listening to some of our podcast, you'll be familiar with this point of the podcast where I make a valiant attempt to share with you and the brand nerds what I believe you, Stuck, are offering us in this world that if you don't give it to us in the way you give it to us, we're not going to get it from anyone else of the 8 billion plus people. And you may have also heard me say this: when it's someone that I know, it's harder for me. And I have to get out of my own way because I come in with you know, these thoughts of I know Scott. Like I know Scott. We don't talk very often, but when you spend years and years together, seeing one another on almost a daily basis, you get to know folks pretty well because we spend more time in our work lives, and sometimes we even spend with our families. So I came in with that about you, Stuck. So this didn't come together for me until literally the very end.
Hmm.
And I didn't know if it was going to come together.
I saw the consternation on your face, by the
Yeah.
way. I can
Oh, you did,
tell.
Larry? Yeah. I didn't. And I wasn't struggling with it, Larry. I was just like, wow, I don't think, I think
Yeah.
this is going to be the first time where it didn't just happen because I don't put pressure on it. But before I go into it, Stuck, I want to thank you on behalf of myself, Larry, Jeff, Jade, uh, Joy, our whole team, anyone that's been associated with our podcast. I want you to know how much it means to us that through the course of these 7 years, that you consistently will show up on LinkedIn. I like this, one of our podcast drops. Consistently making a comment or even dropping me an individual message, either in LinkedIn or email, just encouraging us to keep going and telling us how good our podcast happens to be for you. Stuck, that means the world to us. And when we have been doing this, we think we're doing okay, but we
Hmm.
don't know. And we don't know. We do get encouragement when people like you take the time out of your busy schedule to just say a kind word about what we're doing. I want to start with that, brother. Thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you for that.
Double thanks.
Absolutely. Uh, Trust me, the enjoyment and the knowledge is only to be gained by people like me. It's incredible.
Which now brings me to you, Stuck. When we did the Get Comfy section, and you talked about your career, and then I did a follow up on your career about the moves that you've made,
Hmm.
and you gave this really good answer about deciding to move internationally. It wasn't my decision. You talked to Julie. By the way, shout Julie. What up, Julie? Shout Julie one time that hey, this is your decision, Julie. And then when you have children, it's Julie, Sydney, and Sophia's decision, not yours. You had an opinion, but you moved from one place to another. I think somewhere I read you moved 11 times. No, 11 times, 22 houses, or maybe I have those transposed. A lot of moving from you. And then when we got to the 5 questions, the first question about the brands you love, and I posited the question as a moment. You're like, no, this ain't a moment, dog. This is a whole lifetime. And you mentioned your love of the Corvette, the vet. Oh, I love a split back vet, brother. Love it. Love it. Then I went back up and I was thinking, wait a minute, did Larry say that part of your career journey was CEO of a company in yachting? Yachting? And I thought, man, this wow, this is yachting. And then earlier, your engineering experience, and you mentioned the AWACS plane. And so all of these things, they just seem so different. They seem so different. yet they're not. They're not different. They're connected by this: where you've moved, world travel; Corvette, road travel; yacht, sea travel; AWACS planes, air travel; road, world, sea, air. They're connected by travel for
Hmm.
you, for travel for you, Stuck. And then I went back to think about your answer of what are you most proud of? And you said, what's my family? And you talked about your daughters, Sydney and Sophia. And you mentioned their resiliency. And then you said, they're not afraid of change. And I'm sitting here thinking, why are they not afraid of change? Because their father and their mother are about travel, are
Hmm.
about movement. And what's your father's name? Stuff.
My dad,
Yeah,
Roger.
Roger. Okay, Roger.
Mhm.
Is he still with us?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Oh, great.
Very
Okay, Roger.
blessed.
Shout
Roger.
out,
And
Roger.
still
Okay,
with.
Roger. Okay. And where did you all have this conversation where you were like, Dad, you just talk to people? And he was like, oh, no, 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 son. No, 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 son. No, this is a lot more than just talking to people. Relationships are an asset of the bank as well. Where did this conversation take place?
It was on the way home that day from the bank to the home in
On
Wisconsin.
home.
Yep.
In what?
What were we driving?
Yeah. No, 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 not just that you were driving. Even that seminal moment for you was during travel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Even that moment was during travel. And what I believe this says about you is you have an art about navigation, navigation of life, navigation of cars, navigation of careers. It's navigation for you, Holmes. Okay, Chevy Chase, one of my favorite movies. He was like, "What's up, Holmes?" Okay, for you, it's Holmes, and so I believe that you Stuck offer us in the world this unique thing where you are the penultimate navigator of brand and business management, the penultimate navigator. And I use the word navigator intentionally because that's also the name of a car.
Right.
Interesting. Oh man. It's uh you're one of the most amazing orators there, DC. You have a way. I've never thought of that, quite frankly. Would I have thought of like, okay, curiosity or some of those other aspects? I mean, I don't know how this all happened. Even my wife asked me this, my kids asked me this. How does dude that grew up in Wisconsin? I mean, I do have, distant family members that rarely left the state. Um, decide to go do these things. But yeah, that's an interesting insight. Thank you so much. Whew.
Welcome.
Words of wisdom from you guys. But
Well, this has
if I
been,
can say, just again,
yes,
thank you
please
guys
go
because
before we
I
sign
think
off.
yeah, what you guys do is incredible, and I hope that people throughout these different podcasts, you've had some giants on this podcast. Absolute amazing thinkers, people that have really moved big things in the brand management world. And it's really impressive that you still have all of those connections and you bring those things to life. And you're able to, data is everywhere. Insight, that's rare.
Right.
Mm.
And you guys always bring that to the forefront. And I think it can help a lot of people in their careers move forward and bring out the best in business. So hats off to you guys. or as the French would say, chapeau. Well done.
Chapeau. Chapeau.
That is the perfect segue to the close here. Brand nerds, thank you so much for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The executive producers of Brands, Beats, and Bytes are Jeff Shirley, Daryl DC Cobb, and Larry Taman, Jay Tate, and Tom Dioro.
Yeah, shout out to Jeff Shirley, an ex-Oscar Mayer guy.
That's
right. Madison, Wisconsin, Chicago.
That's right. And brand nerds, if you do like this podcast, please subscribe and share. And for those on Apple Podcasts, if you're so inclined, we love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. And we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.